Hey, what's going on, Summoners? My name is Crumbs, and today we're going to be taking a look at 3 simple tips to die less in your ranked games. Dying is something that tends to happen extremely often in every elo, of course. However, it's usually traded for something elsewhere the higher rank you are. In lower ranks, you're usually gonna die and your team won't trade anything for it. While you can eventually learn to trade your allies' death for something meaningful, it's better to not trust that they know how to do the same. This means it's best to get into the habit of reducing your deaths. Speaking of which, we should probably explain why dying less is so important. I'm sure we can all agree that dying less is great, but can anyone explain why? Is it really just because of a bit of gold and experience? Well, kind of. Dying in League of Legends can go beyond giving the enemy some gold. This is especially true when you die multiple times and become worth even less. One thing that is important to remember is that while you're dead, you're not affecting the map in any way. Sure, you may not always be proactive with your play, but you still exist on the map. You simply shoving a wave or existing on the rift means that you are a threat and that you have pressure, at least more than when you're dead. Think about it. While you're spectating the game from your gray screen, the enemy never has to worry about where you'll be or what your plan is. Yeah, you might be giving the enemy 300 gold up front, but the amount of pressure your team loses is worth far more. With the pressure your allies lose, the enemy team can force something like a 4v5 and set you and your team extremely far behind. Now you may be thinking, but Crumbs, in my elo, the enemy team doesn't do anything productive after they kill me anyway, so it's not that bad. Or, my laner is terrible, he won't be able to carry, he'll eventually throw. Well, you may be right. They might not be getting extra gold and pressure that they should get off of your death. However, just because they aren't gaining anything doesn't mean you still aren't losing a lot off of it. The entire time you're dead, you're missing out on experience, money from CS, possible turrets, and overall, generating pressure on the map for you or your allies to make plays. Dying may not always give your enemy a significant advantage, but it will always set you behind. Overstaying is an incredibly difficult habit to overcome. It's one of the biggest reasons most players end up dying. Breaking that habit can be pretty hard to do on your own, and isn't as simple to go over in something like a video. If you need some help learning how to break your bad habits and avoid throwing easy wins, like dying randomly, then be sure to check us out at ProGuides.com. With our in-depth guides, we can help you form better habits. If courses and lessons aren't your thing though, don't worry. We have challenger level coaches that are available 24/7 to help you out. So what are you waiting for? Go check us out and join the ProGuides family. Nonetheless, let's get back into the video and dive right into one of our favorite yet simple strategies to avoid dying as much. Believe it or not, we will be focusing on CSing in order to lower your deaths. At first, this may seem weird and a bit counterproductive, but hear me out. CSing is already a fundamental that many League players struggle with. But what if I told you that putting more effort into focusing on hitting that 10 CS per minute mark can actually reduce your deaths? Just think about it this way. Every second you spend focusing on getting more and more farm is less time you spend wandering around in dangerous locations for no reason. If you're constantly on the lookout for catching waves and clearing camps, it's not likely that you're taking random fights. Plus, if your team takes a losing fight and you end up CSing instead, you won't be the one dying, you'll be the one getting stronger. We could go on and on about how vital CS is to the game like we've done in other videos, but we won't be covering that here. All we're saying is that if you really want to reduce your death and in turn increase your win rate, then just focus on farming. Is your team looking to make a bad decision? Well, go farm the side lane or clear a jungle camp instead. Is your team preparing to fight the dragon? Well, go catch the side whip and go to the dragon at least 45 seconds before it spawns. Is the enemy team taking Baron? Go farm that mid wave. And if you think that all of this farming is useless just because gold may not be so good on your champ, don't worry. By farming waves, you're also effectively preparing them by pushing them out. With waves being shoved out, it's easier to make a proactive play after a good fight. If you end up wiping the enemy team at Baron, you'll now have a minion wave to play with so that you can potentially end the game. This also works on the flip side. If you lose the fight at Baron, having those waves pushed out can make it so that the enemy can't end the game in time. All in all, always look to catch waves and farm. It's a great habit to build and one that'll push you away from dying, which is a bad one. Aim for that 10 CS per minute so that you can not only reach item spikes faster, but so that you can avoid taking pointless fights that lead to bad deaths. Trust us, if you're focused on farming, you're not likely to get caught out in a useless overstay or following reckless fights. A great TLDR and reminder for you is this: time spent farming is less time spent dying. Now, before we move on to our next simple tip, let's not forget about our favorite ProGuides tradition. Today, we want to ask you all, how many deaths do you currently average per game? What would you want it to be and why? Personally, I do die quite a bit for pointless reasons, but I still have my perfect games, and honestly, it's mostly because of me overstaying, either crashing a wave or greeting for an objective, which can be fixed with some practice. Ideally, I could cut it down to around 2 or 3 max so that I don't lose out on as much, but who knows? Maybe I just need to join the Inting Scion gang so that my high death count doesn't look so bad, and I never have to worry about it. I say it's a strategy. Regardless of what your answer may be, let us know in the comments section below. Nonetheless, let's get back into the video and dive into our next few tips so that we can lower your deaths and increase your KDA. Next, we have the concept of questioning your actions. Always a good idea. This is often something we bring up when looking to improve your play. Attempting to die less in each game is no different. This is all about taking yourself out of autopilot by asking yourself what you're currently doing and what the goal for your action is. For example, if you're shoving a wave out, ask yourself why you're doing so. Is it because you're about to hit an item spike? Do you need to shove it out to prep it before an objective? Maybe you need to shove and start a slow push in order to stop the enemy split push. Or maybe you're doing it for absolutely no reason and are simply putting yourself at risk of dying? Once you've determined what the goal of your action is, figure out your risk and reward. Does staying for an extra wave and risking dying get you an item that can change the game? If you die, will the enemy get anything out of it? Worst case scenario, you do end up dying for no reason at all. Well, it doesn't stop there. Don't just say you misplayed and leave it at that. If you really want to change your deaths, see what happened because of your death. Whether the enemy was able to take a turret or literally end the game, just be sure you take note of it. This is where watching replays will come in super handy. This will help you build a passive habit of understanding how important it is for you to not die as much. With enough practice, this can become part of your muscle memory so that you don't have to focus as much energy on it. Over time, you'll do it naturally and no longer have to worry about how plays work whether you exist on the map or not. Give it time and be patient. You'll reduce your deaths one step at a time as long as you continue to question why you died and what happened because of it. Up next, we have the tip of playing around vision. Yeah, sounds kind of obvious, but again, hear me out. League of Legends heavily revolves around vision control, and it's what determines who gets to maintain control of the map. It is a constant ebb and flow of supports and laners alike, working together to deny the enemy vision while also setting up their own. While we won't dive too deep into this is often done on base timers before objectives as well as when they spawn. When we say you should play with vision, we mean that you need to make sure you get control of an area with your team and play within it. If you're looking to fight at the dragon and the enemy team isn't anywhere to be seen, that dragon is no longer yours. While the severity of that statement changes depending on team comps, it's usually a safe bet to avoid walking into the fog of war alone if the enemy isn't on the map. This will easily save you from countless deaths because you walk around in the dark. If your team can't fight Baron, then don't waste your time walking over to check if the enemy is on it. Assume they're on it and use your time elsewhere while also avoiding a pointless death because you or your team want visual confirmation. Trust us when we say that you should be afraid of the dark when it comes to the Rift, or at least just be really wary of it. And that's not just because Nocturne and Graves are really strong right now. Talk with your team so you can set up vision control and catch the enemy team out. This will save you from dying for deciding you wanted to take a stroll in the dark jungle while also giving your team a lead. Overall, if you want an easy reminder when it comes to avoiding deaths while playing around vision, just tell yourself, it's smart to be afraid of the dark. Before we continue on to the end of the video, if you want to join an amazing community of people like you that love lists, talk pieces, and other things like this, check out our Discord using the link found in the description below. So what are you waiting for? Join! Nonetheless, let's get back into the video and take a look at our final great strategy to cut down your deaths. Last but certainly not least, we have our honorable mention. For this mention, we have to bring up how important it is to test your limits. Well, responsibly of course. When we talk about testing your limits, we mostly mean to do it in normal games when you're relaxing and taking a break from ranked. If you really want to, you can argue that it is possible to do it in ranked if your team has a huge lead, but we wouldn't personally recommend it. Testing your limits is incredibly important as it allows you to know how much damage you can both deal and take. However, we don't advise that you just run into a fight as recklessly as possible. That is an easy way to rack up pointless deaths while also learning nothing from the experience, and that's called inting. Instead, make yourself aware that you're limit testing and take note of what you versus your opponents have. Is there an item advantage? Is there a level difference? Maybe you have to play it perfectly micro-wise. Whatever it is, be aware of what the turning point in the fight was. This is powerful to practice because it'll let you know what fights you can and cannot take. Sometimes you may die during your ranked games because you thought you would win a 1v1 and it doesn't work out. Sometimes this may even happen in team fights because you think you're stronger than you actually are. Well, if you limit test with a purpose, you can figure out your damage far easier. And while it may not reduce the amount of deaths you have in that single game, it'll definitely help you reduce them in the long run with your newfound knowledge of how much damage you can take and deal. And that wraps up our video for today. I look forward to trying these out in my next games as I feel it's always good to lower your deaths. Don't forget to join our ProGuides family at ProGuides.com, where we offer exclusive giveaways and classes that you won't catch anywhere else. So stay tuned and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video. Good luck on the Rift, and may the LP God smile down upon you.